All right, let's dive into this one. The Horse Lord. This is a story that one of you sent our way, and it's a really interesting story about survival and
It's a great story.
big ideas and the bond between humans and animals.
Yeah.
So picture this. You are on the edge of starvation. Winters are brutal. Enemies are all around you. What do you do?
Yeah, this is the situation that Elara's tribe is in. And,
Right.
it's a classic case of innovation being driven by necessity, right? When you're really up against it, you're
Yeah.
much more likely to try something completely new and different.
That's right. And this is an understatement. Elara's solution is to tame horses. Not exactly the
Right.
gentle ponies we might think of today.
No.
These are wild, powerful creatures that are just roaming around in the mountains.
Yeah, they're described as thunder beasts
Really?
in the story. And so, I mean, can you imagine,
Wow.
just seeing these things for the first time and
Yeah.
someone says, hey, let's tame those. I mean, they probably thought Elara was crazy.
Right. Did he have a horse whisperer manual or something?
Well, not quite. But what's amazing is the story goes into a lot of detail about how he went about it.
Okay.
And rather than using force, he actually focused on understanding.
Yeah, okay.
So he spends weeks just observing the horses, their movements, their social interactions, how they communicate.
Like a Jane Goodall of horses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's through this observation that he has a breakthrough.
Okay.
He realizes horses aren't just mindless beasts.
Right.
They're intelligent creatures with their own complex ways of communicating.
So he's figured that out. But how do you go from just watching to actually taming a horse?
Yeah, well, there's this pivotal scene where a young filly gets separated from the herd.
Oh.
And it's this moment of vulnerability for both the filly and for Elara. He cautiously approaches her, he offers his hand, and she nuzzles it. Like, yeah, just this tiny gesture.
It's like a spark of trust
Exactly.
in the middle of all this wildness.
Exactly. But don't forget, the stallion is always watching, right?
Right.
The leader. And even though the filly might be open to connection, the real test is still with him.
Yeah, and back at the tribe, I imagine things aren't looking so good. They're probably wondering if Elara's lost it, right?
Oh, absolutely. They see him spending all his time with these thunder beasts while they're struggling to survive.
Right.
And so the doubts start creeping in. Is he wasting his time?
Right.
Has he become too obsessed?
And then, bam, a massive storm hits.
Yeah, talk about bad timing, right? The wind is howling, the rain's coming down in sheets, and even worse, one of the young stallions gets caught in a flash flood.
Oh, no. This is like the ultimate test of courage.
This is it. And without thinking, Elara jumps into the raging current.
He doesn't.
Oh, he does. He risks his own life to save the horse.
Yeah.
And this is the turning point, right?
Right.
It's this display of bravery and compassion that changes everything, not just for the stallion, but also for the entire herd, and even for the skeptical tribe back home.
So he basically reset the game with this one act of heroism.
Yeah, I think so. It's like the entire narrative shifts.
That's
He
it.
earns the respect of the horses, and he shows them that he's not a threat, he's a protector. And then for the tribe, they start to see that maybe, just maybe, Elara isn't so crazy after all.
Right.
Maybe he's actually onto something.
And then comes the moment we've all been waiting for, that first ride.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine? The wind in your hair, the ground thundering beneath you, the world opening up in a way it never has before.
I mean, it's not just transportation, it's freedom.
Right.
It's about pushing boundaries.
Absolutely.
It's about realizing the impossible might actually be possible.
So it's safe to say that this wasn't just a personal victory for Elara. It was a shockwave that rippled outward and changed everything.
I think that's a great way to put it. It changed how his tribe saw the world, how they interacted with their environment, and even how they interacted with other tribes.
It's like that moment when somebody invented the internet.
I like that.
All of a sudden, the possibilities just seem endless.
Exactly. And what's incredible is how Elara navigates this new reality.
Right.
All the challenges and opportunities that come with taming something as powerful as the horse. And we'll talk more about that in just a bit.
Sounds good. We left off with Elara in their first ride. Talk about a game changer, but I'm guessing it doesn't end there. What happens when the other tribes see this?
Well, you got to put yourself in their shoes for a second. Imagine, generations of struggling, barely surviving, and then all of a sudden, your rivals are zipping around on these magnificent beasts. They're hunting like they've never hunted before.
Yeah.
It's got to be a real shock to the system.
I mean, talk about jealousy, right? Maybe a little awe and a whole lot of, what have we been doing this whole time?
Exactly. I mean, they're watching the whole balance of power shift right before their eyes. And you know what? Elara recognizes this.
Mm.
Instead of just hoarding this new advantage, he sees a bigger opportunity.
Okay, so he's not just a horse whisperer. He's a bit of a diplomat, too.
You could say that. He gets that real strength, lasting strength. It often comes from unity. So he reaches out to the other tribes.
He does.
He offers to share his knowledge,
Wow.
to teach them how to connect with and tame the horses themselves.
That's some serious foresight.
Mm.
He's not just thinking about surviving anymore. He's thinking about, like, building a new world order.
Right. He's imagining a future where the tribes aren't constantly fighting over scraps, but instead they're collaborating, sharing resources,
Right.
building a more stable society.
And the horse, this creature, becomes the symbol of that.
Absolutely.
It's like he accidentally started a social and political revolution.
And a cultural one too, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. These tribes, once totally isolated, now they're interacting more than ever. They're
Right.
trading goods and ideas. They're even intermarrying.
Wow.
It's this incredible melting pot, all because of these horses.
It's mind-blowing. It's like the horse became this catalyst for a whole new era of, interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Like the ancient Silk Road, but with hooves instead of camels.
The perfect analogy. And this interconnectedness, as you can imagine, has a huge impact on every aspect of their lives. Warfare, for instance.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
Can you imagine facing an army that can move with lightning speed,
Yeah.
cover vast distances, and strike with unbelievable force?
Talk about an advantage.
It's a total game changer. Cavalry charges, flanking maneuvers, scouting missions. The horse completely revolutionizes the way they fight. It gives the tribes that master horsemanship a huge advantage.
But it's not just about conquest, right?
Yeah.
It's also about defense.
Oh, absolutely.
Being able to mobilize quickly, patrol your borders, send messages.
right.
It creates a whole new level of security.
Yeah, stability too. And then there's trade, right? Think about caravans of horses laden with goods crossing the land, connecting all these different settlements and marketplaces.
Right.
Trade explodes.
Wow.
New routes open up, exotic goods start flowing, economies boom.
So not only are they stronger, more connected, but they're wealthier too. I mean, Elara really thought this through.
He did. And don't forget the impact on exploration.
Right.
With horses, those once impossible barriers, mountains, deserts, vast plains,
Yeah.
they're suddenly accessible.
Wow.
People can venture further, explore new territories, really push the boundaries of what they thought was possible.
So it's like the horse expands not only their physical horizons, but their mental and spiritual ones too, like a whole new perspective on the world.
You're getting it. The horse wasn't just a tool. It was a symbol of their ingenuity, their resilience, their ability to adapt, to thrive in this changing world. And it really shows their connection to nature, their courage to explore, and this vision of a more unified and prosperous future.
It's amazing to think that one man's crazy idea could have such a huge impact.
It really is. It makes you think about what other impossible innovations might be out there, right?
Yeah.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah. It really does. But what about Elara himself? Does he just like ride off into the sunset, leaving this changed world behind?
Not quite. There's a lot more to his story. His
Okay.
legacy is far from over. There's still so much to explore and learn from him.
We've come a long way with the Horse Lord, haven't we? From a tribe barely surviving to a world transformed by horses. But what about Elara? He doesn't just become some forgotten hero, does he?
No, not at all. His story, it doesn't end there. It actually takes on a whole new dimension as he deals with the effects of what he started.
So it's like, okay, I tamed the horses, united the tribes, now what? I bet it wasn't all smooth sailing from there.
You're right, it wasn't. The story doesn't shy away from that. We see Elara, he has to deal with expectations, conflicts,
Right.
make sure the horse, this powerful force, is used responsibly.
It's one thing to have a good idea. It's another to handle what comes after, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the story shows us this. We see Elara struggling with these questions of sustainability, How do you make sure the horse doesn't ruin everything? Damage the environment. He has to think about the long term.
That's something we still struggle with today,
Oh, for sure.
trying to balance progress with responsibility.
Absolutely. And then there's conflict, right?
Yeah.
Some tribes, they see the horse and they just want to use it for power
Right.
to attack. And Elara has to find ways to stop that, to encourage cooperation.
So he's got to be a diplomat, an environmentalist, on top of the whole horse whisperer thing.
It's a lot, but the story shows him stepping up. He becomes this symbol of wisdom and balance. Someone who understands that real power isn't about conquering others. It's about understanding and respect,
That's a powerful message. especially these days.
It is. And that's why his legacy, it means something.
Yeah.
He represents a different way of leading.
Right.
One based on empathy and an understanding, a connection to the natural world.
So if we had to sum up what we learned from the Horse Lord, what would it be?
Well, first, we see that often the best ideas come when things are tough.
Right.
When we're forced to think differently.
Necessity is the mother of invention. And maybe the horse whisperer, too, right?
Exactly. And second, we learn that to really understand something, you need patience and empathy. Elara, he didn't just force the horses to do what he wanted.
Right.
He took his time to learn from them.
To see things from their perspective.
Right.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
It is. And finally, leadership isn't just about power, it's about responsibility. Elara knew his actions had a big impact.
Right.
And he worked to make sure that impact was a good one.
So the Horse Lord isn't just a story about horses, then.
No,
It's about us, too.
I think so.
Our potential, but also our responsibility.
Well said.
It makes you wonder what amazing things we could do if we faced our problems like Elara did.
Yeah,
That's something to think about, isn't it?
it is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Horse Lord. Until next time.